guys, my name is Noah, and with me here today is Alex, and we are going to be discussing our trade deadline predictions. So, at the time of filming, a number of big trades have already happened, which is why we decided that we needed to film it already. And after that, we are going to look through the remaining names on the TSN trade bait board. We'll do a quick discussion on whether or not we think that's the right place for them to be and their return potentially in a trade. So, Alex, why don't you walk us through probably, I think it's the three biggest trades so far.
Three biggest trades. Well, right now we got David Savard, we got Nick Felino, and we got Brandon Montour.
Yeah, so David Savard trade, that one just happened, right? And then I think the Nick Felino one is the biggest one so far because I think it surprised the most people. So in the Nick Felino trade, he's going to Toronto, and a lot of people are questioning about how they have the cap space. It's actually a it's a three-team trade, this one. So Nick Felino goes to Toronto. Another player. Let me just quickly double check my list because I want to make sure that I have this correct here. Oh boy, lost it. Okay, I'm back. Nick Felino has been traded to the Leafs along with Stefan Noesen. So in this trade, the San Jose Sharks, they get a 2021 fourth round pick, and Columbus gets a 2022 fourth round pick. And Columbus also gets a 2021 first round pick. So this is a clearly big trade. I think it surprised lots of people. I think lots of people thought that Toronto was in the market more for a defenseman. This move only gets pulled off because of retained cap space. So if I remember correctly, San Jose did retain 25% of the salary. And I think, if I'm correct, Columbus is still paying 50% of Felino's salary for the rest of the year. So Toronto, this is a risky move for them, especially since Felino's probably going to leave at the end of the year. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I mean, Toronto in the North Division, they're in a good spot. So if a risk to make for the season, then it might be all worth it. If anything, it is too bad uh, they didn't have the dream of getting Dreger on their side, but it could be interesting in the long run. Hopefully, it pays off because if not, it might it might cost them.
Oh yeah, like this is a big gamble for them. And actually, funny enough, on the trade bait board as of April 9th, they actually had Toronto's top pick or prospect at number 16, and it has been traded. So I think that so far that's been pretty accurate in terms of the trade bait board, and I think that's pretty unusual actually for TSN. So good job, guys, you got something right. Um, but yeah, the other big trade that I want to bring attention to is Brandon Montour. He was traded to Florida. I think this is a good move for Florida. Lots of people weren't so happy about it, saying Montour is a bit overrated. But I mean, with Ekblad going down, they needed a defenseman, and I think that, to be honest, Montour was one of the best out there at one of the lowest prices. I think that's fair to say. I
Yeah,
don't know if you have
I'd
anything else
say
to add to that, but
I'd say considering pulled out of Buffalo, that's probably his benefit too.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you bring that up, right? Because this is a guy that's been playing in Buffalo. You just got to feel bad for him, right? So yeah, let's kind of move on a bit more now to some of the big names still remaining on there. As of right now, as of today, who knows? By the time we have this out, the trade could be finalized. But Taylor Hall is apparently working on getting out of Buffalo. So, what's a potential return for Taylor Hall?
Well, he is a sought after player across the league, but uh, it you know the end result is that he'd probably end up being put in a better place because if anything's been displayed for Buffalo, it is that it is not a good environment for talent in this season. If anything, it has just shown how important it is to uh, not only get the best players, but also assemble a team that requires the best cohesion and that requires just a good synchronicity. And if he could really get anywhere, preferably onto a Canadian team, of course, um, then I think we would see him with way better stats than he already has now. Um, but again, it'd be hard to tell. I've seen how much they would uh, they just pray for the day that he would go to Edmonton, but uh, yeah, for Edmonton, they're too good of a spot right now. I think a mid-range team would want him or would do better with him than a team that's doing well.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention it. Just googling at the David Savard trade because that was actually a pretty big trade too. So David Savard was traded to Detroit for Brian Lashoff. And then he was traded then from Detroit to Tampa Bay for a fourth round pick. And then Brian Lashoff was traded to Tampa Bay from Columbus for a 2022 third round pick and a 2021 first round pick. So that's a massive spend there for an expiring defenseman, right? Obviously Tampa Bay is a monster at the trade deadline. They stocked up last year. It got them the win. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think that they've shown that they can pull some moves off. Yeah, I'm just looking to see quickly if there's any other big ones. There's the Brett Connolly trade that's big for us in Prince George. Obviously, Connolly played with the Prince George Cougars. He was a high first round pick. He hasn't had a great year in Florida, but I think this could be good for him. He's moving to a team that has had winning pedigree, and it looks like they're on the way up already, which I think lots of teams are surprised by. Um, yeah, sorry. So back to Taylor Hall here. I do think that the biggest thing for him is a good fit, right? Like obviously he is a talented player. He has had a bit more trouble this year. Um, but I don't think he can just go to any team and find success. And I think that Buffalo is the perfect example of that. Like and it even looked like a good situation, right? And that's the thing. It looked like a good situation, but it just wasn't. I think there's other factors there, but I don't think that he'll get a massive return. And I think that's the problem. I think that
No,
Buffalo, by waiting until the trade deadline, has hurt his value. So
yeah,
before I would have said like probably a first round pick, a top prospect, and maybe a lower depth player. I think that return has gone down. Right? Like I do think that now, especially considering he's a rental, even though he said that he wants to sign wherever he gets traded to, I don't think that the return is going to be nearly as good. Because again, he has
no,
had a rough season, right? You've
yeah,
waited till the last minute to get this trade done, which means that less time to settle in at a new team so close to the end of the season, right? And with the possibility to upset lines. And that's the other thing. Lots of the top teams right now, their top six is set, right? Like I don't think you'll see very many top six trades to a contender right now because the reality is most of the contenders have a good top six already, right? So that's the question, right? Will he go there? I've seen Taylor Hall to Toronto rumors. I'm like, how are they going to fit him in? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But, anyways, Mike
no,
Hoffman
yeah,
and Alex Iafallo. In my mind, it should be the other way around with Alex Iafallo higher than Mike Hoffman. Um, but what do you think there? Like Alex Iafallo, he's 27 years old. He's played 37 games. He has 23 points playing for the LA Kings. He has a smaller cap hit than Mike Hoffman, only 2.43 million compared to 4. Is this like what kind of return do you think you can get on Alex Iafallo?
well, you'd get a effective player for a better price. I think that's probably the best way you could look at it. I mean, considering he's got slightly better stats than Hoffman, um, but the cap hit is just it's almost halved. That's pretty like it's pretty considerable. If you get someone, it's kind of sort of ever so slightly better stats, which is a bonus, but you'd be saving money in comparison to this other guy. And if you have the capability of finding a good setup for him, he could probably be way more valuable to a new team, especially uh, a team that's competing in the North Division against the Oilers and the Maple Leafs. I think he would probably do well, not maybe not per se in top six, but he would probably be a good backup, like a good third string. Uh, and that could be, like it could be just the thing that helps push a team up to the top in the North Division. So who's to say?
Yeah, obviously. I was going to say the biggest thing, though, for me that I'd take Hoffman over Iafallo is, yes, Hoffman has had a bit more trouble this season, but he's a proven goal scorer in the NHL, right? So if he can find that scoring touch playing with good players, yeah, Hoffman could absolutely be worth that. And there's the chance that you could get some retained cap on there. Like there seems to be a lot of retained cap moves going on already. So I'm interested to see what happens there. So I think there's a few big names out there still. Who do you think is most likely to get traded next? Or who would
Well,
you trade for next if you were a general manager? Who would you be looking to get?
I do know that um, some of the Toronto fan base is really wanting Dreger in there with his stellar stats.
Well,
But
and Jack Campbell, that would be some tandem, and a really cheap tandem at that too. Like, oh man, that would
but
be.
yeah, yeah, it would be an affordable, perfect synchronous setup. Uh, but I don't know if it'll really go through, especially with how costly this last deal was, that on their risk that they took. So I don't know if they'll be taking any further risks, no matter how small. I mean, that being said, eh, I really do see Buffalo just getting either being stuck with their players that no one else wants, or that no one else can really afford. Looking at Hall, and or they'll just be picked clean of some of their more affordable best players, and they'll be stuck in that further spiral. Yeah, I think. Oh, I am interested to see where both Dreger and Bernier go, because I do think both of them do have some potential. Dreger more than Bernier, of course, with his age and his affordability, but also with his um, really appealing looking save percentage. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
You know,
it's interesting.
I think that there's two moves that are absolutely going to happen. I think that Taylor Hall is absolutely 100% going to be traded at this point, given how many rumors there are, and apparently they're very close to a number. Like they're in a talks with a number of teams. So I think Taylor Hall is going to be traded. The next one, and I think this is might be a bit more surprising. We'll see like how the situation develops, but I do think that Brandon Sutter from Vancouver is going to get traded, maybe with like 25% retained from Vancouver for the end of the season. But he's a guy who can step into your bottom six. He can center either your third or fourth line on a contender, Right? He's a good leader in the room. He has 6 goals, like 6 of his 8 points this year have been goals. So, I think looking at that, there is that, like, there is potential deal there. Obviously, his cap hits 4.38, so that hurts a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, if you need good center depth to compete, you need good defensive center depth to compete, and you need leadership to win the cup, right? You need all of those things. And I think Sutter can bring those things to the table. And I think that makes him a pretty appealing option. Now, and I personally struggle now to believe that Chris Driedger will be traded. I think that if he was going to be traded, it probably would have been in the past 2 weeks already. Could he be traded? Absolutely. But I think that with him, I especially don't think he's going north of the border. But I also think that the Florida Panthers want to run with a hot goalie tandem to the Stanley Cup final, right? Like, I don't think they want to upset that tandem. Like, even Bobrovsky's turned his season around a little bit. Let me just double check his latest stats, because last time I checked, they were on the way up. So let me just have a quick look see. All right. And Florida Panthers. Oh, I forgot to apply the filters, guys. This is not good. All right, Bobrovsky is now up north of 0.900. He's at 0.907, which is significantly better than earlier in the season. I believe he's sitting at a 0.88 something. So yeah, he has turned his season around a little bit. I believe his save percentage is still getting better. Obviously, Chris Driedger has the better numbers right now. But that's the other reason I don't see them trading Driedger. Can they get another great goalie back for a similar price? I don't think so. Right. So, like, that's why I don't see Driedger moving. Obviously, it's a gamble. Do I think they'll be able to keep him? No. But I also don't think that they want to lose him now. Sure, they can cash in, but this could be their year to win the cup, right? Like, they've been so uncompetitive for so long. Like, they've been on the cusp of the playoffs. They've had some really promising looking teams. Even last year, their team looked really promising. But yeah, right? Like, I don't see Driedger moving because of that. So yeah, I'm just trying to double check if there's any other moves that happened. Devin Dubnik got traded to Colorado. I actually just want to make a quick note about this. Colorado did need a backup. I think this was a way overspend. Sure, his cap hit isn't that bad. There might have been some retained salary. I can't remember on this deal, but he's only sitting at a .898 save percentage. Sure, he's been a Vezina candidate in the past. I'm not sure about this deal though. Like, for a backup, like, it seemed like a massive overspend in my opinion. But we'll see what comes to happen out of it, right? Obviously, some risky moves do pay off. Yeah, so I think that wraps this one up. If you have any ideas for what's going to happen, let us know. Stay tuned on Wednesday for trade deadline reactions. We're going to go much more in depth on a number of these topics. We're going to kind of break down some of the biggest deadline moves, kind of what surprised us, some kind of talking points that just stood out to us from this trade deadline period. So stay tuned for that. We hope you listen in. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, whatever it is, whichever platform you're listening on. That would really help us out. And yeah, we hope to see you at our podcast later this week.